Hi there. I'm Diana-Liz, and I'm an Amen brain health coach, and I'm here with Pam Miles, who is also a Daniel Amen brain health coach. And we have a weekly conversation on every Monday, and we'd love to have you join in with us. Pam, last week you asked a question and I didn't know the answer. And my love of learning, it just can't stand it when it doesn't know the answer. So I got on the National Institute of Health and PubMed, and I Googled insulin resistance and exercise. And I found a meta study, which is a compilation of hundreds of studies. And it was done by the National Institute of Health in 2015. And the reason that we don't know the answer to the question is because nobody knows.
They don't either. Yeah.
And the question was about insulin resistance and exercise. And it turns out that only 10% of research on insulin resistance is about prevention. And another 12% is, on prevention, and 12% is on interventions of that. So there's another 2% added to, and that the rest of it, 63%, is on drugs. So that's why we don't know the answer. I did find one study which really got me thinking about the whole thing of insulin and exercise and what works. And we really don't know what works. Some people believe that high intensity is necessary. Some people think that continuous movement, low frequency, but, just sweeping the house, mopping, cleaning windows, anything that you move is okay.
Right.
And so we don't know. I did find one study that was really interesting, and they had, they didn't really define the exercise that much, but they measured it for a very long time. And they found that after a half a year, there was a 40-something% increase in insulin sensitivity. And that if you did it for 1 year had active movement for 1 year, that there was an 86% improvement in insulin sensitivity. So it got me thinking about the issues that I'm facing right now, and thinking about what was different when I felt better. Well, when I felt the best, I was doing 250 steps. I was trying to do it. I couldn't do it 9 times a day. That was too much. But trying to do it, like 4 or 5 times during the day. I would get up from my computer, and Paul and I would walk around. We lived in this charming neighborhood that had where a lot of artists lived, and there was all these pretty doors and decorations, and we just loved walking through the neighborhood. We would do 250 steps one direction. Later on in the day, we would do 250 steps in the other direction, just small little tiny walks. And what I'm doing now is I'm doing 5,000 steps, and I'm doing them from like 5 to 7. And I'm just trying to end, and I spent the rest of the day sitting down. And so what I started to think about is if you have 30 trillion cells and they're dirty, a car, you can only put so much gas in a car and then it's full. Right. You can't put any more. Well, unfortunately, we aren't that way. We don't have full where the food falls out. And so we take all this extra food in that gunks up our cells, and our cells don't function. And so you think about 30 trillion cells. Well, it takes time to clean out 30 trillion cells and to get them moving. So a little bit done all the time is better than a whole lot done. The effects are supposed to be with you for like 72 hours, and then you have to do it again to get the engine going. So,
Yeah, I kind of, started looking into it too, and I was getting similar things that you did, ran
yeah.
across. And, they were talking about high intensity,
Mhm.
but they only recommended to about 20 to 25 minutes.
Whoa, that's, yeah, if I can
That's
do 5 or 6 minutes of peak, I'm good. I'm
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been on a program where I was just really hard at it for like an hour,
Mhm.
easily 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And they say that it should be 2 to 3 times a week and hard, something that you're doing. It needs to be kind of hard. It needs to be exertion for yourself.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking that, okay, if you've ever heard of too much of a good thing ain't a good thing, I'm starting to realize that that in particular, that you can actually do too much,
Yeah,
and
I
it can
agree.
cause a detrimental effect,
Yeah.
not what you're looking for, and I think that most people, when they think of exercise, think that they have to go gung ho, and just really overkill, and they may be hurting themselves by doing too much. Um,
I think you're right on with that because,
you know,
like Paul, my partner, will cut the grass and he will do 10,000 steps. And then the next 2 days, he's on the sofa and he won't move because he's exhausted and he's taken his energetic reserve. And I don't think we're supposed to tap that deeply into our energy. I don't think that's
no,
good.
no, and it shows that it can go against you, when you're trying to work with especially with insulin resistance.
Mhm.
And I noticed also that they did recommend, well, of course, the ADA says to do 150 to 300 minutes per week of activity. And then I found some that talked to do 3 minutes every 30 minutes. Do
How much?
something for 3 minutes
Yeah, that's
ev- every,
250 steps.
yeah, 3 minutes every 30 minutes though. So every 30 minutes,
Yeah.
yeah, every 30 minutes to do just 3 minutes. You don't have to do a lot. And then I found we were talking about time of day.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have found several things that indicate that early morning, doing it by fasting
Mm-hmm.
is
Fasting is
not good.
excellent. Otherwise,
Well,
your stomach and your body are competing for blood, and so
when they say that
you
it's
want
not
your food
good.
to digest when it's time to digest your food, and you want your muscles to get all the blood they can get when it's time to exercise.
Well,
Yeah.
and they were saying to do it after breakfast.
After breakfast, really.
After breakfast. They were saying that it was the opposite of what we were thinking, that you don't want to do it when it is
Well, that
when
would
you're
mean
fasting.
that you need glucose or some kind of
Right.
nourishment so that you don't tap in to the reserves of your muscles, so that you're not working from empty, you're working from energy in the body. But I think you have to
Right.
be careful what you eat.
And that is another thing I was going to say, that they have noticed that the type of food that you eat after exercise
Yes.
is a big deal,
Mhm.
And so, there's so many things that, like you said, they're not even in conclusion, when you start looking up and pre-diabetes or, insulin resistant, when you start looking into exercise, it's so not researched enough.
No, it just
And
10% is nothing.
And it's
And
like, well, you just do this or do that. Well, I'm curious, like I said, I want to know. Well, I did find out that from some of the different studies is they recommended both high intensity or moderate intensity. with resistance training.
Uh-huh.
I found some that said resistance training is not as good, but yet it was very limited studies on that.
Well, we don't eat the same thing every day. We wouldn't want to eat the same thing every day.
Right.
And I think we need to do a little bit of variety. I really enjoyed the strength training. Even though I didn't do very much, I felt better. It was easier for me to sit in a straight position and to hold my body, and I just felt, a little stronger. And I miss that aspect of going to the gym. Of course, I don't have to go to the gym. I've got my Pilates bands. And I know how to do yoga, do downward dog.
Yeah.
And get in that plank position, and it's there's no excuse.
Well, and see, that's true. And there's resistance, there's body resistance, against your own body. And then there are balancing exercises, a lot of people think, well, I have to go, like you said, to a gym, not just for weight purposes, but for classes that they have. That's not necessarily so. I mean, you can just practice standing on one leg, and doing very simple things like that. Old school, they used to put a book on your head, and try to have a right posture, I mean, things like that really are, you can do at home.
Yeah, I do practice, actually occasionally practice meditating with one of those yoga blocks on my head, because I want to be in a relaxed, balanced position. And so if I lose my concentration, the block falls off.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And
and that's a good way to work. Core muscles are so important with everything in our body, and so oftentimes it's the one that we don't train enough.
Yeah.
And so and plus it's hard work, but you don't even realize that you're working them. And so I think that
I need people around me to suffer with me.
well, we need to do a class together doing this. We'll do some exercise. See how long we can hold a book on our head or a block. But
yeah. The what I'm going to try is taking a short little breaks, and I get so involved in what I'm doing that I don't want to stop. But sometimes just oxygenating your brain by taking a 3-minute break or 250 steps can make it, give you more energy and more oomph to do what it is that you're doing. And it worked before, so maybe it'll work again.
One thing I'm going to do is something that we talked about is, how I was checking, monitoring before exercise and after exercise. And so I'm going to start continuing to do that, because if I log it, then I can, start to see when I can see the effects. That's something I wanted to know, because some of these things that I was reading in the different studies, sometimes they had 20 minutes after they were seeing such and such. But a lot of it didn't show, or like you were talking about, within 6 months, you might see this, or a year. Well, I want to know, is there something out there, or I want to find out for myself, okay, if eating breakfast and then walking, how much difference? I want to know how much that walk or what it's done for me. Does that make sense? I want to see the numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm determined to start logging that.
I recognize that because I went into the functional medicine coaching in academy and received the training, and I put it into practice in my life. And over a period of 2 years, my rosacea that I get on my face reduced. My psoriasis was gone. The fibromyalgia was gone. And the first clues that that upward spiral had started to come down was I could see it in my walks. I could walk while I was working on the elliptical, and I could no longer do what I had been doing before. And had I stopped at that point and regrouped, of course, COVID hit, and that I think some of the things that I'm feeling are a result of COVID, because I stopped yoga, and I'm doing a little bit on my own, but it's not the same as going into a class and doing the movement that the instructor leads. And I stopped doing country western dancing, and that I can walk for an hour, but I can dance for 3 hours, and with no thought about it. And it's more energetic, but the social aspect lifts us, and the music. So yeah. So
well, and you talk about stopping, and that was another thing that I saw, that it shows that within, I think, 3 to 4 days, that you can have a significant impact in going the negative. So if you stop the exercise, it doesn't take very long at all before, like, you did no good for yourself. All that good you thought you were doing, or you were doing, it can be just that quickly.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to listening to our bodies. We've talked about that, is if we don't feel good, stop and take an inventory about what you can do to lift your spirit. And if you're overdoing it, listen to your body. It will tell you if it's getting nourishment, if it's getting enough movement and exercise. And the wisdom that we seek is already within us. And it was put there by our divine creator. And we just need to stop and listen. So do you have anything to add before we go off?
Nope. Just have a good evening.
Joining us. We're the two brain coaches, and we hope you enjoyed our conversation today. If you have any questions, we love questions, as you can hear from our presentation today. And if we don't know the answer, we will see. We will look into it.
That's right.
Bye for now.
Bye.